Out of control, you are breaking my heart, and I swear I'm drowning.
Ladies and gentlemen, the wait is over. I had to get the Xkilla mask and the Xkilla mask 1.0, 2.0 done before this video, just to show history of Xkilla. I did not know there was some people who were interested of the story of Xkilla, but there's people on TikTok. Shout out to them. They're probably going to be in the description, or yeah, they are in the description. My fault, or in the pictures. But shout out to them because they wanted to hear about the story, so I'm going to give it to them. And throughout the story, there's a lot of things to it. But there's one thing I want to talk about before I get into the history and stuff. I will not be talking about his backstory and stuff because there's a lot of stuff in the story. There's like 40 storylines about him. And goodness gracious. And also, 4 of these .0s, they are the same character. This is the same character. This is the same person, but with a different mask and a different personality style. So just to keep you alive from that. And also, there's not going to be a long story short, because for some reason, it's going to be like a 2-minute stories from 4 of these, because I can't talk about all of the story because like that's like a whole hour. So this story has to stay short. This video has to stay short, just to let you know from that. And also, these versions I will be talking about is what they do and what they kill. And throughout the story, you will understand what I'm be talking about. But also, Xkilla will be returning tomorrow. I know he comes today, but I think the story should come first before him. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy a story of 4 versions of Xkilla. The Killer, aka the Boogeyman, is a dark figure that kills for money and gets what he wants. He has been trained for 2 years and somewhere in 2030. In 2030, he was first appearance as a hacker, but then it got experimented by some people and turned into some kind of shadow dark figure creature that's able to make any weapon out of black and camouflage in the dark and many more. But then he was trying to find this device, and then the device was called the RX-5, and it made him into something more than just a dark shadow. And it made him into the Boogeyman, which is a power that he's able to camouflage in the dark and also make us scarce of taking down his enemies, but also doing brutal takedowns of killing them by pleasing them, or basically by showing them their worst fear, like a scarecrow. In this story, the Xkilla, on the other note, go after these people for them who experiment them and killed one of his people and one of his friends. And he does it so brutally that the people called the Butchers, the GOVs, and many more, including the Bikers, were working together. His main melee weapon was a red-handled machete that he uses for his first kill. He wore the mask called the Xkilla because he was trained by one of them. But they weren't called the Killers. They were called the Hiddens and the Ex-Assassins. In the end of the note, there was more people like him out there called the Killers, but he was the most dangerous one. The Butchers call him the Boogeyman because he was in the dark and killing every single one of them with a single-handedly machete. He uses many weapons, but his main weapon was something that makes people scarce. The Xkilla was the most scariest of all. And don't get me twisted, the mask does look scary. And him as a hitman, he has a lot of talents. He's an engineer. He is faster, stronger, and smarter. He's a very professional killer. In every newspaper and every report, they always call him the mask killer. And every time when he shows his mask in public, everyone recognizes him from the jump. People are scared of him. The mask is so scary and so wanted that the mask is literally the most wantedest mask in the United States. Which means if you wear the mask, you officially get arrested for wearing it for treason. Most of all, him as an assassin, he most of all kills as he pleases and works for the people called the Xkilla until it got compromised and he betrays them. And sooner and after, people only remember him as the boogeyman because of the mask. And people will forever remember him as the boogeyman. The Xkilla, aka the Reaper. The same character as the killer, the boogeyman. Long time ago, as the killer, he was in a Cold War, where he was trying to stop a war from being warded, until he got killed in the impact, and they threw him down in a waterfall. When that happened, some monsters or something grabbed him in the sewers in a different place, and they decided to shock him back to life. When they shocked him back to life, there were nothing remains of the monsters. They've been ripped apart and most of all teared apart. When he came back, he became something more than just the boogeyman. Him dead, he was something more extraordinary. He was the Reaper. Him escaping the island, escaping everything that stands for us, he goes back and gets revenge. But he lost people so badly that he's been locked up by the people called the generals for at least 5 months. When he was locked up, he was more than just an assassin. He was a killer. He went out on a killing spree, killing every single one of the people who did things to him. And it wasn't the GOVs. It was the people called the generals. The general's plan was to rule the city and other places and try to take down every single killer that he was. And they were all dead. And single-handedly, Xkilla took over a country and all that stuff. He was so ruthless that he cut their heads off and sent them as a mail message to them to stop fighting, or you'll be next. His quote was always, "I am the last person you will see." And him, as that figure, he has more powers than you can imagine. He can teleport and stop time, including hallucinating you with some kind of fear toxin power. He is so dangerous that the mask has been so upgraded that he upgraded the mask to make it look like a Grim Reaper type, as you can see on the top of the mask. The eyes and the teeth are so vicious that people always think that's his face. This is in his prime. The people who betrayed him or stabbed him in the back but also broke him, he came back stronger. He died from them, but in the end he came back to be their worst nightmare. He is fearless and he shows no mercy. It doesn't matter if you have a family. It doesn't matter what you are or capable of. It doesn't matter if you have so many people. It doesn't matter if you rule a country or a city. He will kill you no matter what you say. Because in the end, on what you did, you can't escape from death. This one should be interesting. Xkilla the Grin. Basically one of the people called the Grins that have smiley faces but with different colors. He is the leader because he's the Red Grin assassin. For himself, 3 of his friends is the Yellow Grin, Blue Grin, and the Green. In this type of scenario, the Grin is probably the most disturbing thriller character above all the second ones. Well, kinda. But this is where he goes back to his root as a killer. But the thing is, he still have the teeth on top skull figure where he's still the Reaper. In this scenario, he kills very brutally. He finds ways to kill, just like last time as the Boogeyman. In the case of it, he takes down people like corruption, like corrupt people who try to do this and that in Los Santos. And in Los Santos, he robs banks and does a lot of things to stop it. Most of all, he's a spec op, so he knows he goes after the cartel and all that stuff. As him taking down the cartel, he also killed family members, but it was only once. And the reason why he did that because he couldn't leave no loose ends behind. As a killer as himself, this is where we see him as a true killer, where he kills and doesn't matter who you are. In the case of it, he's not, this version of him is not worse than the last ones. Because of course, this is where we see him close as an anti-hero, where he basically tries to save the world. But in the end of the matter, in every city he goes and every corrupt people he goes up against, they have lost to him his feet. He has been wanted and many things speculated. And he has no rules and no boundaries. And the boundaries has been moved, so everything is at his disposal, including his backup friends, which is called the Grims. And throughout this time, he kills and uses many weapons as he's pleased to make sure to get the job done and make sure to stop them once and for all. The Xkilla, the Shadow of Death. This is where he hits his final form. The mask looks darker and more scarier than the last one. This was supposed to be the 2.0, which has been switched up into a different type of similar dark figure. And as you can tell, the dark figure has been corrupting him. His powers as a dark figure himself has been corrupting his mask, including his clothes, to make him more like a Reaper. For 5 years, everyone thought he was dead, which basically he was supposed to die. But some of the people saved him, which was the GOVs, just to make sure to get the RX-5 out of him, which is a power that contains him to be more dangerous. They needed him alive so they could find some kind of cure. The RX-5 wasn't just a power to get, it was a virus in him that made him into a monster, including some kind of figure. After him escaping from the GOV, his plan was to go after the GOVs and stop them from using that virus as a weapon. Most of all, truly, this is the most disturbing, scariest thriller thing that you might hear from him as him returning. He is more dangerous than the last ones. Because in the case of it, he has been stronger throughout all the years. And in 2040 and 2041, he has been more brutal than you can imagine. He basically torture or experiment people. But the thing is, he only experiment just to find intel and find evidence about what happened. In the case of it, the Shadow of Death is very dangerous. All the powers combined, him using silencer revolvers, duels, a machete, a fire axe, including his sniper rifle, and using all these weapons to go up against these many type of characters in the story. And many people call the reunion CSV, Ground Zero, the Council, even the SOX and the GOVs. And all these people has these types of abilities that he goes up against. And throughout the story, he goes against demons, devils, spirits, the undead, and other types of monsters that you can possibly imagine, even the devil, sometimes gods. And he kills them because they try to stop humanity. And throughout that time, there has been time he's trying to stop them from not coming into the real world. As himself, he is the Shadow of Death, and he kills with no remorse and no mercy. In the end, he's himself has been gone a long time ago.